Hola, muy buenas tardes. Good afternoon. My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. Welcome you to tonight's En Casa con la Plaza. En Casa con la Plaza is La Plaza's virtual programming since April of 2020. Presentations, demonstrations, conversations, and performances. Sponsored tonight by Union Pacific Foundation and the Institute for Museum and Library Services. If you're on Zoom, please use the chat feature to ask questions. We also have the Q&A, ask questions. We'll probably take them after the presentation conversation. If you're on Facebook, please use the chat feature, use the comment section there to ask questions, make comments, shout outs, lo que sea. We welcome your interactivity. A little bit about what's going on at La Plaza. We're open every day, Wednesdays through Sundays, our new hours from noon to 5 p.m. Both La Plaza and La Plaza Cocina are brand new museum and teaching kitchen located at 555 North Spring Street. This Sunday at La Plaza Cocina, a new exhibit, Abuelita's Kitchen, Mexican Food Stories. An incredible exhibit showcasing 10 abuelitas, their food stories, talking about their families, their journey, their food journey. And it's an incredible, along with recipes and a video, a 28-minute video that just showcases these wonderful women and their familias. At La Plaza, LA Memo, our current exhibit is up till August 14th. You got to check it out. We'll be talking a little bit about it tonight. Okay, I'm going to introduce our tonight's guest here in Casa, Linda Vallejo. She creates work that visualizes what it means to be a person of color in the U.S. She states that her new works reflect what she calls her brown intellectual property, experiences, knowledge, and feelings gathered over more than 4 decades of study of Latino, Chicano, and American Indigenous culture and communities. Linda was a National Women's Caucus for the Arts 2022 Lifetime Achievement Awardee. She's currently featured in Fronteras del Futuro, Art in New Mexico, and beyond at the National Hispanic Cultural Center, Art Museum, and Chicanx, Dreamers and Changemakers at the Museum of Anthropology, University of British Columbia. Her early works, which is what we'll be talking about, they address the symbolism of indigenous and colonial traditions of Mexico and the Americas, combined with the contemporary surrealism and pop art to create a sense of a dream state. Her landmark solo exhibition, Linda Vallejo, Brown Belongings, was on display at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes in 2019 and 2020. Currently, she's part of our most current exhibit, LA Memo Chicano Art from 1972, organized by Altamed and La Plaza, guest curated by Rafael Barrientos Martinez, Altamed's curatorial assistant collection. So please join us, Linda Vallejo.
Hi.
There you are. How are you, Linda?
I'm well, thank you. Very happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to have you here as well. As I described, our most current exhibit, LA Memo, Chicana Art from 1972 to 1989. It highlights the artistic contributions of LA-based Chicana and Chicano artists with 51 artworks from 31 artists, and you're one of them, represented by a couple works. So what we want to do is to talk about that era, 1972 to 1989, maybe a little bit afterwards. And then we'll talk about your most current work. But for now, let's talk about what was going on in your life around that time.
I think you have a beautiful photograph of me at Self-Help Graphics, actually.
Well, here we go. We'll start there. So you were a student at the time at Long Beach State, correct?
Cal State University Long Beach, that's right. I was in the printmaking department then. And I entered in the printmaking department in 1975. And David Starr, an artist in the Chicano community at that time, told me about a job opportunity at Self-Help Graphics in downtown Los Angeles, working as a teacher on the Vallejo Mobile Art Studio with students, elementary school students in East Los Angeles. And I interviewed with Sister Karen Bocalero directly, and she hired me, which I'm very proud to say because I knew Karen way back when. She was always a very important mentor and teacher to me. And it was my entrance into Chicano culture. I came in out of Europe. I was actually studying and going to college at the University of Madrid at the time, and came back to be with my familia because, of course, I'm a Californiana and I have lots of family in Los Angeles.
And what was your experience like there working with Sister Karen, the rest of the crew, and especially with the students, the people from the community?
Oh, it was wonderful. I worked as an artist in residence for 3 years. We learned how to write grants at Self Help Graphics. The artists were asked to write their own grants and asked to write their own curriculums. We had a really wonderful opportunity to study the Cultura de Mexico, and we integrated Mesoamerican symbolism and history into our lesson plans for students in East Los Angeles. Since I had just been in Spain, I spoke Spanish. And so I really enjoyed my conversation and communication with my young students. I taught a silkscreen on the Vallejo Mobile Art Studio and actually printed several of the first posters that came out of Self Help Graphics to celebrate the Dia de los Muertos, and artist posters and editions that came out of the Self Help Graphics printmaking studio. We were on we weren't on Cesar Chavez at that time. This is one of them right here. Dia de los Muertos. I printed this for Self Help Graphics in 1977, we believe. The dates get kind of fuzzy the far back you go.
Yeah, it's dated November 8th, 1977.
Yes, that's the first year that we really started to publish materials, because then there wasn't any internet or any social media to share about events in the community. What you had was a telephone and posters. So we designed and printed posters, so did the children, and so did I and other members of the community. And we would actually walk around and put them up on different, storefronts. We had friendships around the neighborhood. It was a very beautiful time for me, and discovering my Chicanismo, learning about myself as a Mexican American, as a Mexicana. And I learned a great deal in the schools, as well as working on the Vallejo Mobile Art Studio, and able to share my knowledge of printmaking with the students was really, really wonderful. I call Self Help Graphics my cultural alma mater because of the years that I spent there and the time that I spent learning about myself. And it made such an indelible mark on my character that I'm now actually producing contemporary work that deals with much of the lessons and the history and the knowledge that I gained from those experiences at Self Help Graphics and the Chicano community since then.
Oh, incredible. Well, we have a couple of people on Facebook want to say greetings. Thank you. Linda Vallejo says Margaret Garcia. And then Karen Cruz Hendon, our senior curator at La Plaza, she says, hi, Linda.
I wanted to thank you, Karen, for your part in LA Memo, for including my work. I'm very honored and very happy with the exhibition, especially with the um, the opportunity to exhibit some works that have never been seen before from that period.
Right, and we're gonna see one of them now, because at the same time you were at Self Help, 1975. Within 3 years, you were also learning different media, and here we have an example that's at part of the LA Memo exhibit, and gonna show it, and if you could describe it to us. So here goes.
Mhm. Nice video. This particular piece is a video that I produced as a part of my MFA program. It's called Take a Bite. And in the video is actually my husband, Ron, of 50 years now, and my cousin, Vera Quintana, Orefiche. And I have spent a great deal of time in Europe, of course, studying the cathedrals and the Catholic Church and its influence on European culture. So this particular video deals a lot with Adam and Eve and emotions. And of course, instead, I'm taking a bite as if I were the snake who is enticing Eve to take a bite from the apple of knowledge. And the video lasts about 7 minutes, and it shows my husband and my cousin going through a series of poses to explain emotions. It was taken on 8mm film, and I literally scratched through or wrote with magic marker on every frame of the 8mm. There was no computer to be able to digitize or to create things, but so things had to be done by hand. And there's a sound, the score that's included in that video was actually produced by me and a group of friends using indigenous instrumentation. And we sound kind of like macaw in the jungle. That's how it kind of sounds when you listen to it. And I'm very pleased to have it shown in LA Memo. It's the first time it's been shown in such a large context. You can see me here taking a bite. This is me taking a bite. And we close with some credits, which show you that I started in 1977 and I actually edited it out in 2017. Vera Vallejo Orefiche is the name that's listed there on the video. Really pleased about it. It really has a sexual quality. It has a historical quality. It has a European cultural quality to it, superimposed on the indigenous score, which I think begins actually the conversation that I'm having now, which is a combination of European imagery superimposed with Latino Chicano aesthetic, which is actually the body of work that I've been working on for the last 12 years. Because as we live in the United States, and we are Americans and we speak English, and we are attracted to and actually collect European artifacts, our grandmothers did, our great-grandmothers did, there is still within the context of our culture a Latino Chicano aesthetic. And how does one actually explain that while still talking about history, still talking about symbology, still talking about belief systems?
All right. Well, I'm going to share another image that's not from the exhibit. Here, this was from 1980, called "Spirit of Quetzalcoatl."
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this one, and was it part of a series? Was it? Explain, please.
Yes, it was a part of a series. And basically what happened was, as a printmaker, I was printing and monotyping lithography. And this is a combination of printed and monotyped lithography paper that I then cut up and tore and folded into three-dimensional objects. This is actually a three-dimensional object on a flat base. And the snake shape that's coming out to the right-hand side is actually paper that I took and milled and made paper mache out of. Some of the textural elements that you see involved are also wool. Some of the little pieces that you see at the very bottom are paper mache made into a series of shapes. And I was literally superimposing printmaking history, monotyping history, and technique and sculpture on top of Mesoamerican historical symbol.
All right. Well, just a couple more comments here on Facebook. Sherry Kalk, she's saying, interesting to learn that you have also worked in video. You do it all, Linda.
Sherry's a great producer. She's working on several very big projects right now. Thank you for joining us, Sherry. It's a great pleasure to have you here tonight.
And George Mesa, bravo, Linda Vallejo.
Thank you for your support, George. It means a great deal.
Well, here's another, this one is from actually an LA Memo. It's part of that, during that same time that you did the last piece called Pyramid City Anahuac. So let's take a little tour of Pyramid City.
So this is also a series of lithographic monotypes and lithographs that have been torn up and folded into shapes. If you notice at the center of the object, there's this cross of waterways, if you will, as the central of Mexico, sort of the symbol of Anahuac, which is the Efe today. And I've superimposed that idea onto what appears to be spaceships or flying objects. One actually looks like a little teepee, and you can see my writing on them and these funny little curly things that are actually plant-based. So I was using all types of materials to be able to create these three-dimensional sculptures that superimposed a series of techniques from art and sculpture and printmaking, and using Mesoamerican history as the base for the conversation.
Yeah, I think that's relevant in all your work. At least what we've seen now and what you've done in the past is you have that history behind you that you use as both inspiration, but but really depicting it in a, of course, in this case, a kind of a playful way. Utilizing found objects. Um, yeah, and was other work around that of that era in the early 1980s? Was it similar to this?
Very much so. There was a lot of prints. There was a lot of prints that I took and folded and made sculptural objects out of. Um, I was very much interested in monotyping and sculpture at the same time. I actually think that I've always been a sculptor, and that's why I've come back to sculpture again and again and again. And at that, what I enjoy doing is using what I have from many different sources. I enjoy reading what I call incongruous material to be able to gather a different viewpoint of what it means to be Latino. I always incorporate the Latino aesthetic, as I've said before, or historical elements into the work, but I might combine it with, as I'm reading right now, several different great writers, American writers from the 20th century. What kind of an object could that possibly make to take two different cultural understandings, artistic understandings, and blend them into one object? This is something that I've always enjoyed doing because I believe that that you end up with an object that really draws an interesting conversation about multiple cultures, how we relate to each other, how we converse with each other. Because here we are in the United States, and we have access to just about any kind of information and knowledge that's possible. What are we going to do with that? And I really enjoy the challenge of creating something that is never been seen before, that is always taken from a Latino point of view.
All right. Well, back then, the internet wasn't around. You had to depend on your own research, libraries, I'm sure, scholarly works, but also your fellow artists, people that were creating art at the same time at Self Help Graphics, at the school that you attended. Tell us about the kind of the both the social and the artistic aspects of working with other artists that were emerging at the same time within the Chicano art movement.
Well, we had Alfredo de Batuc, who I believe is in the LA Memo show. John Valadez was around. Leo Limon, of course, was there a great deal. Micah Mesqua, Cecilia Castaneda Quintero was with us. Sarah Pineda was with us. Several artists who have gone on to different lives now, but many who still are with us. And learning about Chicano, Mexicano, indigenous culture out of self-help graphics and becoming a part of the indigenous community at that time with the Flores de Aztlan. I mean, I was involved with a danza troupe, Flores de Aztlan, for 8 years, where we practiced every Monday and presented at colleges and universities, and actually ended up in Ceremonia on several occasions where we actually practiced as indigenous Chicanos, Chicanas. And at this point, there's a lot of women in the community that are doing the same. And we started this 40 years ago for ourselves. Everything that is here now was there then. There were people studying different aspects of Chicano, Mexicano, indigenous culture, Chicano culture, and incorporating their experiences in their real lives in the barrio, outside of the barrio. In my case, I was incorporating my lessons learned and things that I enjoyed in Europe and living throughout the United States. But it was always taken from a Chicano point of view. Sister Karen was an artist as well, and she was a printmaker, and she really appreciated the artist in us. And she always accoladed us and supported us as individual artists as well. We had a wonderful time teaching and learning about ourselves and about our community. We were there during the very first, I always say Self-Help Graphics was the first institution in the United States to present the Day of the Dead. And I've never been challenged on that. So I still believe that that is true. And so we really enjoyed developing Dia de los Muertos, developing the idea of the calaca. And then Osco was there as well during many of our first celebrations. And there was so much going on. It was really quite beautiful and really very inspiring. It was so inspiring that it's continued to influence what I do today. And that's basically 50 years ago.
Beautiful. And Self-Help Graphics, of course, continues. You, in fact, curated their Pacific Standard Time
Oh,
show from a couple years ago, from a few years ago, on Dia de los Muertos.
yes, it was Dia de los Muertos, Legacy, Past, Present, and Future with my co-curator, Betty Ann Brown. And it had a beautiful catalog that accompanied it as well. And we curated an exhibition that included several artifacts and historical items, along with a selection of Day of the Dead prints from the archives and altars made by contemporary artists that were present, and also some artifacts from the Flotas de Aslan, because there's actually photographs that document us as part of the Dia de los Muertos celebration. So it's really, self-help graphics is really very integral to my being. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary next year. Betty Avila is a captain without, no one can match Betty Avila as a captain. She's really steered that organization to a beautiful new home and a stability that they've never known before. So I'm very proud for my alma mater. Very, very proud.
All right, and we're proud of our partners in crime as well. We
Why
we,
not?
we work together with them. All
Why
right.
not?
Well, we have Philip Castruita here saying, "Hi, Linda. Remember the video you did for Academia del Quinto Sol?"
I do, Felipe. Thank you so much for reminding me. Oh, I still miss Frank quite a lot. I know that we all do.
And Chispa Hales, also known as a Holly Lynn Purser, she says, "Hello, everyone. I'm so thankful to be enlightened by this community. Linda Vallejo, I appreciate your depth of knowledge and experience and how you share it with the rest of us."
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate your support and kindness.
All right, well, we're going to jump a few years ahead. Here we have a piece that you did. Oh, excuse me, that's not it. Oh, here you go.
Yeah,
1987, The Spirit of Nature as Quetzalcoatl.
there you go. So this is a drawing. It's a gouache and charcoal and pencil on paper. It's arches. It's 32 by 20, 30 by 22. It's a part of the Huron family collection, which I'm very pleased to be a part of always. And if you notice, if you take a good look at it, it does resemble my husband in a way, because at the time that I made it, we were, just, I think we were married for 10 years at that time. He was one of my first models. And his headdress is really one of feathers and flying. And he has a very beautiful, benevolent face, very kind, very future. There's a futuristic look in his eyes, as if he sees into the future itself. I love this drawing very much for many reasons. I was actually making sculpture. I moved in from the three-dimensional folded paper objects into actual three-dimensional handmade paper objects that were where the paper was molded to pieces of wood that I collected from downtown Los Angeles. I created a whole series called Tree People. And what I was doing at that time, because of my influences from Indigenous America, was to personify nature, to create an object that shared the idea that nature is a living being. Nature has a soul, which is very contrary to the way many people think. And so in this case, Quetzalcoatl is a living being that is part of a tree. His head is a part of a flying tree, if you will allow me that.
All right. Well, and that's we have another one here that's part of that series called Tree People, a series from 1980 to 1990. So this is a little bit beyond the scope of the LA memo, but I mean, it fits right in. So let me show this one if you could tell us about it.
Sure, Donantzin. This is a piece of a tree that I found on the streets of downtown Los Angeles. I was literally driving around downtown LA, where I had my studio, on 4th Street and collecting fragments of trees. I was rescuing the fragments of the trees and bringing them to life again by creating art objects. As a matter of fact, the Women's Building and many of the women in Sherry Galkey's circle really supported this work and created a catalog surrounding the women at that time producing in Los Angeles. And it was called Exposures. And this piece was actually included in that catalog. If you'll notice, this piece has a cavity in it. And I saw many times, if you look at trees and you look at nature, you'll see male and female. They appear to be a woman. They appear to be a man. In this case, I've chosen this piece because it appeared to be a woman. And it actually has a three-dimensional breast attached to the front of it, which is that red object right at the beginning in the front. I put a crown on her, a crown of a lead, actually, that sits on top of it so that she has a crown, much like Donantzin has a crown. And in some cases, this particular piece is called Pele, because of the purple coming from the bottom and the reds and the yellows, really reminded me of the goddess of the Hawaiian Islands and the lava that comes from the earth itself. So this is a female being. This is a female tree. And I think many of us have traveled to Arizona, New Mexico, and seen the very large standing figures in the rock. Well, this is kind of how nature became for me, where nature became the standing figure that stood for the gods and the goddesses.
Oh, fantastic. Well, this kind of ends our journey in that era of the 1972 to 1989, which is part of course, LA Memo, the exhibit we currently have in La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. But you've done a lot. I mean, we could have filled up the galleries, both galleries, just with this work that you did during that time. But since then, you have quite a body of work and you have something to present to us. So Linda, take it over here.
Thank you. Before I move on to my PowerPoint presentation, I would like to thank you, Abelardo, for hosting me this evening. Really appreciate the invitation. Of course, I've already thanked Karen Cruz, but I will say it again, and La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, and thank Rafael Martinez for his assistance in curating it. And of course, to thank Ultimate Collections, Cátulo de la Rocha and Susana Bautista for including me in this very important exhibition of Chicano art during its seminal period. Thank you everyone for your support. So with that, I will move and see how I do. And here we are. So I'm going to show you a series of pieces that I've been working on for the last, what looks like 12 years now. And I'm going to begin with the most recent work called Objects of Opulence, a dialogue about appropriation and the politics of privilege. Before that, I was doing Make 'em All Mexican, a dialogue about appropriation and the politics of color and class. And then I also have another series of pieces called the Brown Dot Project, which is an elegant solution to complex questions about Latino data. So once again, I'm incorporating math, I'm incorporating history, I'm incorporating all numbers of things from a Latino focus. It's not moving, allow me a moment. It's not changing. There we go. Objects of Opulence, 2022. This is my newest installation at the Bermudez Projects in Cypress Park. And it is a combination of objects that I've made from Make 'em All Mexican, the Brown Dot Project, Datos Sagrados, and these incredible brown painted historical pieces. I've taken historical Victorian furniture and placed data-based objects on the walls and polka dotted the entire wall to create an atmosphere which talks about the politics of privilege. The database pieces on the wall talk about the gross national product of Latinos, and some of the objects on the table are the beautiful brown bouquets. So I've created these giant brown florals which create objects of opulence to talk about beauty and access to beauty and access to wealth and access to privilege. Between now and 2034, Latinos will constitute 75% of all jobs. Latino gross national product is the 7th largest in the world. If we were a country, we would be the 7th largest in the world on how much money we spend. We will fill the majority of the jobs that will continue to make Los Angeles and the United States strong again after COVID and all the losses that we've had. This particular piece indicates the data on the back of her, on her back is a database Datos Sagrados piece, which indicates the data that between 2010 and 2015, Latino college graduates grew by 40%. We're finally actually meeting this goal where our graduates are growing. So in this case, I drew the mandala on the back of her, on her back with 31 spaces, multiplied that by 40.6, which is the percentage that I want to identify, which left 13 painted spaces painted white. So I've taken this one, combination of Roman or Greek culture, made her brown, and then added the caveat of Latino data on her back. think I can't move ahead unless this guy's at the bottom. How funny. Sometimes it'll allow me, sometimes it won't. Maybe there's a question while I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. You may want to just use, I don't know, your keyboard, just the
I'm
little
using
arrows.
that's what I'm doing, but it's not letting me go.
Why
Sometimes.
don't you stop share screen and there you go.
Do it again.
Yeah, just share screen again, see what happens.
It won't let me pass forward. So let me stop screen sharing.
Okay.
And I'll just go on to the object.
And in casa, we're no stranger to technical challenges.
No kidding. Doesn't it always happen?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go again. Let's see if it allows me now. So many of these pieces are about my experience in Latinismo, mixed with my experience as a Latina.
And all these all these data points, they're from journals, from government statistics, demographics.
Actually, I'll show it here.
Okay.
The data comes from the Pew Charitable Trust.
Okay.
So it'll be smaller, but I will show the rest.
Great.
This is a data tape. This is a data chair. It indicates that 27.3% of the COVID deaths in April of 2021, as reported by the Center of Disease Control, were Latino. On this particular piece, the Data Sagrada says 160 spaces times 27.3% equals 160 painted spaces on the seat of the chair. The Pew Charitable Trust has a really wonderful Latino initiative, which has collected data about Latinos for quite some time, and very interesting data, not just census, not just employment, but a lot of other issues as well. This is a brand new piece called It's the Real Thing. And actually this piece is up at the Museum of Anthropology, University of British Columbia Museum of Anthropology. This is a 28-inch tall Coca-Cola bottle. And what I said in terms of data is that the bottle constitutes 100%. So I filled it with 75 milk-colored wooden balls, which you can see through the little windows if you actually are there to see the piece, to say that data that I've just expressed, that 75% of all new jobs will be filled by Latinos, US Latinos, between now and 2034. And so I'm talking about our value to American culture, our value to the American economy, our value to the American culture, ultimately. And in this case, why are Latinos going to fill all the jobs? Because we're the bricklayers, we're the cement pourers, we're the electricians, we're the mechanics, we're the servers, we're the maids, we're the farm workers, we're the workers that I consider to be the backbone of American culture and economy.
Well, you've described, excuse me, Linda, you've described how the objects that you display, that you manipulate, you find them in different locations. Where did you find this 28-inch Coke bottles?
I found it at an antique mall in Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona. My son Paul lives in Scottsdale, and there's a really beautiful antique mall right around the corner from his house. So I just walk around the corner and do some shopping, and I found this bottle there. It's a very interesting. There's so many double entendres in the work. You know, going to secondhand stores is definitely a part of Latino culture. We really love the segunda. All of us seem to just love the segunda. And so I'm always going through segundas. And while I go through segundas, I'm always looking for something else that I could use. I go, gee, I wonder how I could do that. So at the same segunda, I saw this cake, this sort of vintage cake holder. And I thought, maybe I should make a brown cake. So I bought this paper cake. It's a printed cake. And this piece is called You Can Have Your Cake and Eat It Too. And the mandala form on the very top of it with the cherries is 36%, because 36% of UC entrants were Latinos for the first time in 2020, historically so. 36% of UC system entrants were Latinos. And so you can have your cake and eat it too. So here's some series of Make 'em All Mexican, and I'll allow you to tell me how much time we have. Of course, Abelardo.
I will.
This is a little boy Brown celebrating the Dia de los Muertos. So I took little boy blue and I made him brown and I gave him a calaca. It's the pieces are really meant, these pieces are meant as a beginning. The first objects of opulence are to hopefully to begin a conversation about the politics of privilege, you know, how we live, the standard that we live, who has the right to live the best standard of life. These particular pieces make them all Mexican politics of color and class. And so I basically, when you go to the Segunda, you're not going to find images of Mexicanos. You're going to find English images, French images, Egyptian images. So I basically took those images and said, I'll just make them all brown like me. I'll make them all Mexican just like me. I took the three graces and did the same thing. In this case, I made them different shades, you know, cafecito, all these different shades, and I gave them those, the hip tattoos to bring them into the contemporary culture. So you have contemporary culture, you have Grecian culture, you have Grecian myth, and then you have the whole aspect of Latinismo and the idea of the politics of what is beauty? What is beauty? Who is beautiful? Who decides who's beautiful? Is being dark beautiful? Should I be ashamed of being dark? Do people like me or dislike me because I'm brown? It's all these questions begin to come up. And in pláticas and in panels, many people ask pretty difficult questions, but they're kind of funny. So it allows you to talk about these difficult issues. This is La Victoria, which is taking a great image of Grecian history, a classic image, and making it milk chocolate. This is actually painted with car paint. And you can see the base, if you can't see too closely, it actually has detail on it, which meant there was another layer onto it in terms of car culture. Instead of painting my car, I painted La Victoria. Superman. I always remember the story when I showed this at the Museum of Art and History in Ventura. I'm sorry, in Lancaster, with my friends there at the museum. A very nice gentleman and his wife. He stood up, Latino, dressed like he just came from church, and said, I love this piece, Linda, because it makes me believe that I too could be a hero, that someone could see me as an individual that would save the village, that would stop the train, that would save the children. And he was very emotional about wanting to be seen as a hero to his people, to his community, to his family. Now we have the brown dot and datos sagrados. I actually dot these images, and I showed this particular photograph because people think I generate them from the computer, but I actually do dot them, and they take hours and hours and hours to do. This is a pictograph of a data pictograph of New York. In this case, in 2015, New York was 27.5% Latino. Let me see if I have the numbers at the bottom of this one. In this particular piece, there are 82,944 squares, 22,810 dots. So it's on architectural grid paper. There's a number of squares. I multiply that by the number of percentage, and then I dot the exact amount. So these are much like pie charts. These are like graphs that you see, but it's a different way of viewing and seeing data. Now we're doing it again. Okay. Wants to go up. So this one is Los Angeles. And this is Los Angeles in 2015. We were at that time 48.3% Latino. Now we're over that percentage in Los Angeles. And they begin looking a lot like textiles. They look like aerial views of architectural formations. They look like the bottom of the mothership. They look like motherboards. They begin taking on reminiscence of the dot of people like Chuck Close in terms of dotting and squares. And they appear in many different forms. This is Miami at 66%. It includes 54,743 dots on a body of 82,944. And these are very large portraits. Each one of them represent a different data set. And then I took antique Mexican postcards and created my own grid on them and began painting them, if you will, whiting them out, if you'll allow me. In this case, there's 340 squares, 257 painted in different shades of white, to indicate the data that 75.5% of immigrants in the United States are lawful. I'm going to say that again. 75.5% of immigrants are lawful. This is another Memories of Mexico postcard, which indicates that 43.3% of farmers in the United States are Latino. I mean, you know, we're out there on the land. And I tried to choose photographs of postcards that actually showed the familia together, rather than those very terrible photographs that were taken in the 30s, 40s, and 50s of the poorest of the Mexicans, the very, very poorest. They had this desire to take photographs of us in the most desperate condition, rather than taking photographs of us in indigenous clothing or as a family, in this particular case, in front of their home. These were taken from photographs that I took from the internet on the adobes in California, in Los Angeles, actually. Esperanza Martinez helped me with this particular body of work. And this one indicates that 91.2% of Los Angeles Latinos live on the east side. No surprise there. These two, I have some interesting data points. The top one indicates that 25% of US Latinos experience discrimination. That's nothing to, I would think it would be higher personally. And the bottom was that 35% of US Latinos voted for Trump. I believe that this particular data set has been corrected to 14%, but I think it's somewhere in between, actually. And so where does that come from? Why would Latinos vote for Trump? Well, we've got Texas, Florida. We got Texas and Florida. The top one here indicates that 48% of Latinos are homeowners. We own our homes. And the bottom one indicates that 29% of sex trafficking victims are Latino in the United States. This is very hard data. This is a Datos Sagrados piece where I took the data off the grid and basically drew a mandalic form, counted the number of spaces, and then painted in the appropriate number, just like the chairs in the Objects of Opulence and the two pieces on the wall in Objects of Opulence. But once again, data sets. This one again is that 43% of US farming and forestry and fishery workers in the United States are Latino. And this one is that 53% of US Latinos live in 15 metropolitan areas. This is rather large. This one is 44 inches in diameter. This was two photographs of my exhibition at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. I was very, very honored to include 125 works on 2 floors. I believe I was the first artist to inhabit both floors. And it also came with a catalog with 100 plates that was produced by La Plaza, which was an honor for me. And today it still really helps me in my career and in my work as an artist in a larger community. This was the Datos Sagrados at the Museum of Latin American Art in Long Beach. You can see that they look like a constellation on the wall, sort of like planets. This was an exhibition that I had at the University of Texas A&M in the student gallery in the Student Union. They did a very beautiful job. The students curated the exhibition, and I had a wonderful time working with the students there and conversing with them. This was my cover of Artillery magazine. Of course, I have Tulsa Kenny to thank for this. And you can see I like this story. I did Fred and Barney. I did Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble. Now, if you'll notice, Fred's a little bit lighter than Fred. Fred's a little bit lighter than Barney. He's just a little bit lighter. And I always say that Barney kind of looks like a guatemalteco. He's just a little, he looks like a little guatemalteco, right? And yet Fred's always getting in trouble. And Barney is always bailing him out. Anybody who watched this as a cartoon knows it. Barney is like the most loyal friend anyone could ever have. And so my story is that even a short, little dark guatemalteco could be the best friend you ever had. Right?
That's right.
And this was my cover of the calendar section for the Brown Oscars. I did all the movie stars too. And I have, of course, Cho Noriega to thank for this and the UCLA Center of the Film Studies.
Well, one of my
Uh,
favorite memories of Brown Belongings was that when Ben Affleck came down to the gallery and took a photograph of himself in front of the Mexican Matt Damon holding an Oscar. That was classic.
it was unbelievable, is what it was. It was really quite unbelievable. As a matter of fact, you can see him and Ben Affleck and Matt Damon at the top of this newspaper, at the very top on the right-hand side. That's their image up there. And I believe that that's how he found out that he was actually painted brown by me. We were very fortunate at La Plaza to get the attention of the New York Times for my show. And I was very, very pleased. I believe it did a great deal of good for all of us at that time to be honored by a national publication. The LA Times came as well. This is my show at the Soto Clemente Vélez Cultural Center in New York. You can see Superman there on the right. And that's the end of my presentation.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Linda. We have comments here from, I believe this is somebody from La Plaza. Thanks for always being relevant, provocative, and cutting edge, Linda. And that you most certainly are. I mean, uh, your use of these geographic forms, the dots, the mandalas, to be able to communicate data. I remember seeing people there at the galleries just standing and in front of a piece for minutes at a time. You don't see that. You see people just going from piece to piece most of the time, but
Mhm.
people stuck around, spending a long time just to absorb the work in front of them, but also the story behind the work.
People always say it's really great to have an artwork that actually has knowledge embedded in it.
Oh yeah. Well, we have Alicia Gonzalez. Your work is so creative, inspired, and politically, socially important. She loves it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Samuel Peña, incredible. Lots of exclamation points in. Alicia, again, your latest project will speak to our STEM folks who may not relate to the art the same way creatives do. Well done.
Yes, and superimposing math on cultural ideals or cultural symbology is an interesting combination that creates really unusual types of imagery. That's why I say incongruous. Who would have think, how do you mix math with art? How do you create a mathematical image? That's an incredible question. It took me 4 years to find the answer to it after Make 'em All Mexican. It didn't come quickly. I had to wait and see what I could figure out. And I walked into the art store one day and realized that I could plot brown dots on grids to create mathematical formula.
Wow. Well, this is thank you so much for joining us tonight. We just touched on a few of your pieces and some of your series. You also, of course, did your Cielo series, your Spirit Cloak series, which I'm sure they're out there. Please go to lindavallejo.com. Linda is an incredible archiver of her work, and you'll learn so much about her and her work. George Mesa is asking, where are your next projects?
I'm very fortunate to be working with Curator Love and Erica Hirogami, who's working with me to develop some new opportunities. I'm also working with Charlene Villasenor Black on an upcoming exhibition for PST at USC Fisher, and also through the Chicano Studies Research Center again. Charlene is actually conducting a series of lectures that she's developed around Chicano art that you can find on her Facebook page, Charlene Villasenor Black. Really beautifully created lecture series. She is a scholar and an educator and has a wonderful ability to share great details about the work. So I'm involved in her projects. Presently, I'm working on larger iterations of objects of opulence. My hope at this point, and what I'm working towards, is to not only show what I shared to you, the very first slide of my slideshow was a sitting room, but to do much larger rooms and polka dot rooms of Victorian imagery mixed with data-based imagery and mathematics to talk about where were the Mexicanos at the turn of the century? Where were Mexican Americans? Where were the Mexicanos? Where were the Tejanos? Where were the Texans? Where were we during the turn of the century when America was building its great wealth? We were building the railroads. That's where we were, and we were in the fields. And I want to begin the conversation of talking about our history from contribution, from the point of contribution to American culture, American economy, American history. And I'm very excited about these works. I must have already 100 pieces, and there's several works in several opportunities in the pipeline, and I'll be sure to let everyone know about it. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for your contributions. You know, I know Latinos, of course, have contributed greatly to to our United States society. But your contributions to the art world, both as an artist, as a teacher, as a mentor, as an inspiration, is really is incredible, and we appreciate that you've shared your work with us tonight at La Plaza back in a couple years ago. And we have here from Karen Cruz saying, highly probable some of Linda's works may appear at La Plaza again soon.
Oh yes, I hear the rumor, Karen, and I'm so excited.
And for now, come down to La Plaza. Well, not right now, but between here and August 14th, you could check out a couple of Linda's works there at our LA Memo Chicana Art 1972 to 1989. It's on a second floor. You'll be able to see her work plus the work of 30 other artists. It's going to blow your mind.
Really beautiful.
I can say. Yeah. Well, Linda, any final thoughts?
Well, I'd like to encourage everyone to be creative, to think creatively, to live creatively, and to be safe, to take care of themselves and their family, and to enjoy every aspect of their lives because it's so important and so beautiful. I'm very pleased to have lived as an artist and a teacher. It means a great deal to me. I've gained a great deal of satisfaction in being a Latina, a Latinx, Chicanx, Indigenous. And I'm so grateful for all of my community, all of my supporters, the kind words that were said this evening. Your encouragement means a great deal to me, and I thank every one of you for coming and joining me tonight. And I'd like to say one last thing to thank you again, Abelardo, for inviting me to be a part of tonight's talk.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. We got the hearts are blowing up here on Facebook, the little floating hearts. So you're much loved, Linda. Well, thank you so much, everybody out there who joined us tonight on En Casa con La Plaza, this conversation with Linda Vallejo. If you didn't catch the entire program, or if you want to see it again, we will be posting it on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. It also lives on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA, and it will also go on our website, lapca.org, where you could catch all of our En Casa con La Plaza sessions, the 285 of them, including a couple others from Harry Gamboa Jr. joined us a couple of months ago. And we have, let's see, Eloy Torres joined us a few weeks ago. And of course, we're going to invite other artists that are part of this incredible exhibit to join us as well. Okay, we have Michelle Coates saying much loved. Thank you, Michelle. Samuel Peña, he has his little heart thing there on the chat on Zoom. And thank you again, Linda. Let's see, coming up on En Casa con La Plaza this Friday. Oh, we're off for the rest of the week, but tomorrow at La Plaza LA, we have Chicanas en el Movimiento. It's a plática with Gloria Arellanes and a couple of other women who were involved with the Chicano moratorium 51 years ago, with Esperanza Sanchez as one of the moderators. You got to come down 7 o'clock there at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes at 501 North Main Street. It's free of charge. I'm sure you'll find parking at that time of the day, or take an Uber, take a Lyft, or use the metro. We invite you to join us. And then we start again with En Casa con La Plazas next week. Check out the schedule at lapca.org, along with everything else that's going on there at La Plaza. And this Sunday, yes, the grand opening of Abuelita's Kitchen, Mexican food stories at our fellow museum, La Plaza Cocina. Y con eso, muy buenas noches, Linda.
Muy buenas a todos.
All right. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.